All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on our weekly Monday Zoom and Learn, where we try and give as much value as we possibly can each week to each and every one of you. We choose a different topic that is top of mind each week. So we would hope that if you're joining us for the first time, you'll continue to join us week after week. Or if for whatever reason you can't, we do record them, and that is located in the chat where you can find those videos. My name is Tommy Dutcher. I'm the area sales manager for California Title, and I help facilitate this Monday Zoom and Learn. And our host today is Mary Jane Morris with Granite Escrow. She will be our trainer today, our speaker today, and our host today. So Mary Jane, do you want to introduce your team as well?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Short sales has been, we've been getting a lot of questions about short sales of the potential short sale market. So we thought it was time to get the basics noted for those who didn't live through it once or twice. I'd like to recommend and to welcome Tracy Hasse from our Mission Valley office. How are you, Miss Tracy?
Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Thank you. Thank you. Looking forward to this.
Happy to have you. I also have our attorney team member, Andrew Wertheim with Pacific Law Center, and he has graciously offered to join us on Mondays and keep an ear to the ground for all of our safety, and so we're happy to have him here always. I'd also like to point out, because I'm going to ask her to feel free to speak up whenever she wants to, Lori Pineda is one of 2 short sale negotiators that was recommended to me by a 1,000-strong TC group. Her name and one other came up as the most often as a experienced short sale negotiator. And so we wanted you to have a choice of more than one, but to be exposed to them, and maybe she'll demonstrate pulling out her hair for us or whatever happens. Anyway, we're happy to have you. Tommy, I'm ready for my PowerPoint when you are. We're going to start with the goals for today, which will be page 2.
All right, let me get it up and running.
Short sales today. One more. All right, so our goals for today, we're going to talk a little bit at the beginning about the odds of the foreclosure market and what the numbers from 2007, 2010 look like as compared to how many people are in pre-foreclosure or forbearance at this time right now. We're also going to talk about what is a short sale. I remember when I was a young escrow person, and the first time I heard it, I had several images, including short people. Wasn't quite sure what it meant, but it literally means that the seller is going to be short on his closing and that he's going to need assistance from someone somewhere. And most often on the big cases, it's the lender. We're going to talk a little bit about what the processes look like, and we're going to talk about whether you should hire a professional negotiator and what it's like to do it yourself. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like what to expect when you're speaking with homeowners. And then some of your available resources, including the wonderful attorney, our escrow company, Tommy Dutcher from California Title, and our 2 short sale negotiators, in this case, Lori today. So next slide. So we've all been talking about whether we're going to have a short sale market. I looked at the numbers from 2007 to 2010, and we had 10 million completely closed short sales and foreclosures in the 2007 to 2010. We are closing in on 8 million households that are facing foreclosure or eviction, but only about 4 million of those are people who are missing mortgage payments and may or may not be able to catch up. So you can see that a prediction of half a short sale market is certainly out there. Whether it ever comes will be, we'll have to wait and see. But next slide, Tommy. So will there be a boom in the short sale market? So during 2007 to 2010, home prices dropped below the floor because of the number of people that were in this trouble. So they didn't have equity And that's what caused most of the short sale market. There was no equity left. Right now, it is being predicted that because of our 8% last year and 10% this year, although we're starting to cool off a little bit, that in Temecula, we've certainly seen about an 18% short-term price increase. And the research I did says that roughly, in average, that leaves most people with around $80,000 besides their mortgages, roughly. And so those people are going to be, when they have equity, it means less short sales. And but we are expecting more net sales, meaning that they've decided that the tenant, they don't want to be a landlord anymore. Their second house wasn't worth the retirement scare that they got now. And so we've got basically 50-50, whether there are going to be some additional sales. How many are going to be short sales and how many are going to be net sales is left to be seen, and how much cooling we get through the winter.
Yeah, I think a lot has to do too with, the interest rates being low and remaining low. How much equity is in the home. The talk on almost everything you read says that we're going to experience a flood of people selling, and that there's a lot of people holding off on deciding what they're going to do, even whether or not they'll stay in the area in which they're currently in, right? Because they may be in a situation where they may have to move for work, but that's not going to happen until everything is kind of lifted. And these people are taking advantage right now, not taking advantage, but they're taking advantage of what's available to them. And that's the forbearance. And until those forbearances are lifted, it will be hard to tell what will happen, but think about the perfect storm. If the interest rates remain low, and we go into forbearance being lifted, and there will be some that with the renegotiations that the bank does or mortgage lender does with them, that they can afford to stay in their home. And there's going to be some that even with adjustments, they wouldn't be able to afford to stay in their home, right? And those are the ones that are going to more than likely put the house on the market sooner than later, right? Take advantage of equity while they can. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when all this plays out.
We, as an escrow company in Temecula, have already paid off 4 liens that were moved to the end. And the way that the government-backed loans are doing it are having you sign a deed of trust and recording it as a second or a third, forcing you to pay it off when therefore it's moved to the end. Those are 0 interest demands that we're getting, and they are good for 90 days. So they do just want their money. It's not an additional. They've already collected their interest in the primary balance. So we're already starting to see some of those. Next slide. Tommy.
Yeah, that is the next slide.
Prices can come down, but dramatic price reductions are really unlikely at this point. And Zillow just gave some numbers for the 3rd and 4th quarter of last year. They were expecting 10%, 9% last year and 10% this year. I think we were a couple points shy of that, but it's right in there. One of the other classes that, thank you, Tommy. One of the other classes that we're going to be having for you shortly, so when you see what day it is, in September, is the rent relief class. So many of these people can be made whole if the seller or the tenant will go deal with the government. There's 122 million in San Diego. There's 57 million in Riverside County. LA's expecting a second funding. They were only allowing you to get 80% recovery of losses. Now they are up to 100% recovery of the losses for however long the money holds out. So we will be talking about rent relief. And then just because I've been in the industry so long, I can't help but mention to you that the reason I'm teaching the rent relief classes, besides the obvious that people need it, is that CAR has asked us to get out there and really use our skills, and all the people we talk to and all the people that are crying about they haven't, even tenants that can't keep their payments up and things, that there is relief for them, and they're asking us to use our influence to connect them with that relief, so that, and either the landlord or the tenant can apply. There is even some money for, I'm not going to be getting into this in my class, but there is even some money for electricity and water bills and things like that have gotten behind. So what is a short sale? A short sale is when the lender agrees to take less than what he would have gotten. And the reasons that he wants to do it is that he doesn't want the home back. They have to get you out of there first. They have to run the length of the time. It's a little shorter now between notice of perform and when they actually sell your home, and actually with the moratorium, none at all. But it is not going like it did in 2007 and 10, where you might be in the house 2 or 3 years before they kick you out. So there's they are able to move faster now. So a short sale can also include the bank paying for past HOA dues or a lien of water bill on the property. They usually will not pay judgments, but they will pay other things that are in the way of the property transferring. They have the option to forgive completely the debt upon settlement. They have an opportunity to ask you to move that debt as a private, give you a note and take it as a private debt that you'll continue paying for whatever reason. This gets into recourse and non-recourse loans. And I'm not going to go there today because that's way too big a subject for today. But the bank does have the option to completely forgive it, pay it off. They do not want it back. If you all remember how the neighborhoods were decimated by empty properties and people having parties in the middle of the night. And I even had a realtor friend who ran from a baseball game to show a property and got sat on the curb with handcuffs while the police figured out who he was because somebody reported he was in the property. So a short sale is where you ask the bank to take less, to look at the sum total of what's owed on the property, to release it and move and be able to move on in a true sale. It is not a foreclosure. It feels like a foreclosure to the seller, and we'll talk about that a little bit. They have to experience some of the same losses, emotions and things. So we'll talk about that shortly. But next slide, Tommy. So the benefits for a lender over foreclosure is that it'll protect your credit score a little bit. It prevents foreclosure. It saves you some money. It helps the lender. It gives the homeowners more control, meaning you get to pick your buyer. You're often in the home till it's over. And the short sale offers a peaceful solution instead of having to be removed from the property through an eviction or an auction on your curb. One of our resources up here is Tiffany from Dedicated Credit Repair. And she said what got her into the business 15 years ago was an auction on her curb. And that's when she decided to learn everything there was about credit and develop the career that she has now. So very emotional to see people on your curb. The lender has several choices. The sellers have several choices. They can reinstate their mortgage. We call this the win the lottery plan, or the bank of mom and dad maybe will bring you current. You can work out a loan, or a repayment plan with them. I have one seller right now who they added $500 a month to his payment until X, however long, until that recovers the amount. They can refinance the loan. This was not an option available to people in 2007 and 2010 because the properties had dropped so much in value that they could not net anything or get high enough to bring even the existing debt down where they could afford those payments. They can allow a foreclosure to occur. It means do absolutely nothing and just wait for them to knock on the door and tell them you don't own the house anymore. You can do a deed in lieu or foreclosure, which is really where you call them up and say, where can I drop off the keys and how do I sign the deed to give this property back, and they can declare bankruptcy. Bankruptcy will hold off of foreclosure and may give you time to rearrange your assets and debts if you have a situation where you might be able to do away with some other debts and save the situation. So I'll leave that that sort of legal advice to the people smarter than me on that one. Andrew will hook you up with a bankruptcy guy if you need it. So the next slide.
And real quick, let me add in there is, as you mentioned, the bank can decide to just wipe out the remaining debt that you own, take less for it, and not charge you any difference for it. In most cases, you do get charged for the difference in what the house sells for and what you owed. It classified as, correct me if I'm wrong, Andrew and Mary Jane, but as income. And that's why it ends up, in most cases, hitting somebody's credit and hurting them a little bit in regards to that. But I don't want anybody watching this to think that a short sale is going to just wipe out any and all of the debt on that home. That's not usually how it works. But you do get released from the loan that is currently on the property, but you do take an income hit for the difference in what was owed.
All of those are part of the final approval status that they give you, whether you're going to have a no, a deed of trust. Do I have that correct, Lori? Your lenders.
Yes, absolutely.
Your lender's instructions are going to say whether the short sale approval will say whether they are expecting you to sign a note, if they're going to 1099 you. During the 2007 to 2010, Obama walked us away from some of that, and I'm not sure where the law stands today on whether you're going to get 1099. Do you know, Lori?
For a personal residence, you will, excuse me, you do get 1099 for all short sales, but whether you have to pay any taxes, if it's a personal residence, no. If it's an earned income property, that depends on how many write-offs, and that's a tax question. So that's the only part where you would get possible tax consequences is income property.
Tommy, can I have the next slide?
Yes, you may.
Sorry. So why consider a short sale? I left you a lot of the language here that from my research, and I'm just going over the highlights of it, but I did want this presentation to have all of my notes. Forgive me, the points I want to point out from this page are that these are legitimate transactions where a commission is paid. We are hearing that 6% is doable again, whereas during the 2007, 2010, they were taking you to 4 sometimes, or 3 sometimes, and you had to split that. The effect on a seller short sale credit is a short sale is going to be better on their credit. They're going to be able to recover in 2 to 3 years as opposed to the 7 that they would be with bankruptcy or foreclosure. The lender for sure does not wish to have the property back. They incur incredible costs trying to keep a grip on that property, restoring, maintaining, remarketing, reselling. And then they still have to go through all the work we're going to do on a short sale anyway, which is when the package finally arrives from a legitimate buyer who's going to stay in long enough for this long process to occur. It could be a year or 2 that they're carrying the property and causing. They really got a lot of heat during the recession about the blight on the property. Can't read my writing here. As I need you to go back one more. Buyers can typically buy a property less than, but not necessarily. If there's a lot of liens, they're not necessarily a cheaper property. They are definitely going to take some time, and they're hoping with a short sale that you will take care of the property as you have been up until then. Although we had a lot of dead grass during the short sale market. All right, Tommy, sorry, you were ahead of me a little bit. So as you can see, you're going to have an initial meeting with them. You're going to list the property traditionally with the additional short sale addendums. You're going to do a net sheet and see how short you are, and you're going to watch that net sheet because every dime you spend has got to come from somewhere. You're going to finally get an offer and get it signed, and then we're going to get that all submitted to the bank in 30, 60, 90 days out. They're going to finally assign a negotiator and a short, and then 10 to 30 days on approval. I have to tell you, for all my years of practice, this is part of the reason that I wanted the short sale negotiators to join us is, and all the tenacity that I have shown in my career is not necessarily the kind of tenacity that you need to understand how to do a short sale. I have spoken to the operator at lenders over and over again and gotten absolutely nowhere. If you don't know how to get through to the asset manager, if whatever the secret is, Laura, you guys have them, and I don't, and they're definitely a different animal than getting a demand or a difficult lien released.
Absolutely, absolutely. Definitely, tenacity is what you need to have. And I would add to your timeline here that the sooner that I get involved, the more options and the better strategy that we can have to actually put the homeowner in more of the driver's seat, as opposed to the bank making all the demands. So I actually prefer if the minute properties or, borrowers, the sellers, borrowers become distressed or have any type of hardship, let's get involved there and let them know all their options. And then you even know what kind of offer you want. If you don't know all the liens, there's just so much to know before you ever even go into the listing. Maybe not as much as that, but what kind of offer that you're looking for. If you've got HOA needed, we're probably gonna have to have a buyer come in with that. So what I'm just saying is when people wait till they've got the NOD, they got their notice to sale, and then they come to me, wow, options are very, very limited. And it definitely puts the bank in the driver's seat.
Not two banks does it the same way.
No, they do not. They do not. And feeling that out, at times, you really have to understand banks, period. You have to understand if they're just saying this because they just feel like it, or is this an investor rule that cannot be changed? So once I can figure all that out, then I come up with my strategies and we figure out what more options we have. And it all depends on the hardship the borrowers are going through, the timeline. Do they want to stay in the house and try to keep it, or do they want to leave? So there's just a lot of options. So the sooner we get to them, the better. Absolutely.
And for the agents that are new to short sales, that have never done short sales, Lori, could you explain how you fit in the mix with them and how you are compensated in the mix with them?
Sure, sure. Most of the time I hear from my agents prior to them doing a listing appointment, excuse me, and they're just asking the basic questions, and all I really need to get from them at that time, they'll say, do we need to have all the paperwork? And I don't want to overwhelm a borrower at all. So it's mostly just contact information and information about their bank, and then I can do the research. So I will get involved the absolute soonest that you need, even if it's just to talk to their client to keep them calm. So like I said, the options become limited the longer we wait. So as far as my fee, like Mary Jane said, the banks used to try to cheat us out of commissions, but now 6% has been pretty standard since I've been doing this since 2008. So per Sandicor, the listing agent must pay my commission, and I am through a broker, so it is a regular commission to me. So at the 6%, you never list MLS higher than 2.5 to buy side. Then it would be 3.5 to listing side, with my 1% coming out of that. So 2.5, 2.5, and 1. And only paid if we close this, but I'm tenacious and I've closed every one since 2008. So
Awesome.
My short sale negotiator that I used for years has left the business now and actually left the state now. So I wasn't able to use her, but she put through some of my short sales at one of them 3 times. And on the third one, the market was rising and the lender said that this was an area of increasing value and they wanted an over asking price to even submit the offer. So
definitely want a professional negotiator come in and really figure that out. And I've had to file value disputes often, especially when you're dealing with VA,
right.
FHA. Yeah.
You are going to have to prove a hardship.
Yes, you need to have a hardship, correct?
Yep. Now, obviously, COVID delays are going to definitely be a giant
Yes.
percentage of these, but there is the usual, somebody lost their job and can't get it back, or
Divorced.
somebody became ill, which is clearly a COVID. The lender is going to require a very specific package. It has to have no typos, no errors. If it's missing a middle initial, that's going back. And we got to the point in some of them where we were giving them stuff that we didn't necessarily believe was 100% correct, but that's the way they wanted it to get it in their paperwork to match, and we had to make it match. So, and each short sale file I've seen back in the day were didn't even cover it. That's what the normal size of a file is. It's probably 5 reams by the time you're done. If we were in the printing out, they're going to need your tax returns. They're going to need your pay stubs. They're going to need all of your bank statements. They're going to need a marketing plan from the realtor. They're going to need a net sheet from the escrow company. They're going to need a preliminary title report from Tommy. They're going to need all this in one package. The lender then has to decide on the value of the property, both to himself and to the market, and factoring in other options like your HOAs are behind, and there's a water lien and that sort of thing. And they will not only get a broker price opinion, which is just a neutral realtor that doesn't know you, giving a market, the CMA. They will ask for a CMA from the listing agent, and they may even also have the property properly appraised. Although that appraisal is an internal to them, it's not going to be used. You're not going to be able to use it for loans. Okay. All right, the next slide, Tommy. We have to find a buyer for the property. We have to enter into the contract, and we have to have them absorb what we know when they need to take over solar, just like they knew now. They need to transfer the solar. We're going to need to take over the solar. If we're going to need some cash for a repair, we need to know if the price is going to change. Certain buyers that are cash poor may not be a good fit for this particular type of transaction. Other times they are. It just depends. Like Lori was saying, you have to look over. If there's more than one lender, we have to have bank approvals from both of them. Many seconds during the recession took lots less than they were owed, but you still had to go through the procedure with them. And there were times when the second wouldn't cooperate, didn't like the number, or wanted 5,000 instead of 1,500, or whatever the amount is. Agents have to be very careful not to spend their own money in short sales. As a broker, many times during the recession, I had to tell agents, there were agents who come to me and say, I'm not even going to close it. We're out of money now. And I'm like, no, you have a fiduciary duty to complete the transaction, even if you gave away all your money. They typically take 60 to 90 days to process. And the longer you wait to get the package in, that's why Lori's saying, talk to me day one. We're going to ask some standard questions. What caused you to get behind? Are you even missing payments? Because almost missing, if you're not missing payments, the bank's not even going to consider a short sale. They didn't through the entire recession. Maybe they will now because of the COVID. What do you think, Laura? You think they're going to?
They give you incentives like Fannie, and they'll tell you, we won't hurt your credit as much if you keep up with payments. But really, it's not helpful to the homeowner if they can sit there and not make payments for 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, so that they can recover and actually have some money to walk away with. Then I'm all for that. So I really focus on helping the homeowner, and I'm actually working for the agents, but just to make sure that they're in a better shape when they leave than where they started with this short sale. So
One of the things that is a problem is that the seller will morally lose interest, in the process because it's overwhelming, and
it's very overwhelming.
Yes. It's not uncommon for them to ghost you and make it hard for you to find them and for you to get what you need in a timely manner and to stay on track. I was going to mention this later, but another problem is people who don't know, agents need to inform sellers that a short sale is not a foreclosure. And many times at walkthrough, we had the property had been stripped. Even if it wasn't light bulbs and kitchen cabinets, it was all the good ceiling fans and that sort of stuff. I had one agent as a broker that authorized me to say, okay, up to $1,000, whatever needed to be replaced, because it just happened so often that the sellers had stripped the property. They feel they're losing the home and that they're being forced out. And so there has to be a line drawn between the honorable method of short selling your way out and saving your credit. I did one short sale. We had so many debts and liens. The very last one that came in was only $1,500, and we asked the seller to pay it, and they would not pay it. And there was no money left and no amount of discussion where I explained to them that just in the mortgage, we were going to be canceling $500,000 worth of debt. But the other 3 credit cards that had made a deal with us, they just walked completely at the $1,500, and there was nothing left for anybody to give that we could keep them from doing it. So you definitely have to build up their courage about it and give them a lot of faith in your ability, and stay on top of the short sale process with the lender. I just threw in a couple of sample hardship letters. When I very first got in the business, I had never seen one, and I couldn't imagine. A lot of sellers, well, what do I write? I tell them to be as heartfelt as they can be and what's really caused their problem. And so I just gave you a couple of samples of what hardship letters look like, so that when you're trying to imagine how to help your sellers say what is happening to them, that you have some frame of reference for it. Next slide. I'd like to talk about the 3 big no-nos in short sales. The seller cannot receive any proceeds in the sale in any form at all. Nothing under the table, no slipping them $500, no nothing, no money at close. They are required to turn over the property at with no. That's why in this market, if they're netting anything, even if it's a small net, and we have to watch it very carefully and cut commissions and stuff, a net sale may be your best choice other than a short sale, because if you don't have a legitimate hardship, you are making your payments and you have some money coming, a short sale is not necessarily your avenue. The sale cannot involve a flip transaction. It cannot, you cannot buy your daughter's or mother's house to save them. And there is something called an arm's length disclosure, where you have to say that there is no financial benefit to you whatsoever in doing this short sale. We have had situations that the ones that they caught the fastest are people with the same last names. But there are lots of situations where people legitimately had the same last names, and we had to explain away how come Smith and Smith were on the same transaction. The bank does not. In the Wild West days, in the early to late 2006, 2007, lots of that was going on. Lots of homes were being rescued by parents at much lower rates, and they finally had to close the door on that. The property must be marketed at a fair price. You can't raise it so high so that nobody will to take it out of the short sale, and you can't list it so low that you're legitimately trying to squeeze somebody in there to the loss of the seller. A broker cannot be knowingly commit or be any party to a material fraud, misrepresentation, trip, scheme. I can't believe how many people inflated their payroll numbers or deflated their payroll numbers, or there was, especially early on in 2007, 2008, there was quite a bit of what do we think they want to hear instead of what is the legitimate truth we should be telling them. So do not, and a homeowner cannot stay in the home after close either. If it's a fully approved short sale, the seller must exit the property. They cannot stay in. So these, if they're trying to save their home, we're going to have to make some other arrangements, maybe a loan mod or something like that. I wanted to talk about what to expect when counseling homeowners. Obviously, during COVID, we are all trying to be a lot more sensitive about how we presume things about the other people. I I wanted to take just a minute and say, years ago, an employer sent me to a class called Dealing with Difficult People, how to deal with difficult people. It was an employment class. And one of the things that they said was, when you're having to reprimand somebody or have a difficult conversation with them, or really get into things that Americans or human beings consider honor, you have to give them a place to save face. There has to be that. Lots of people have gone before you on this. Lots of realtors themselves lost homes during the market. You really have to get them to understand that you're going to protect their interests, that you have specialized skills that they can't do on their own, that you're going to keep high ethical standards and integrity. You're going to know your market. You're going to know what that house is worth, and you're going to offer win-win solutions. But saving face is so, and one of the things I wanted to tell you was that there's quite a few sales triggers for this conversation. I wear my badges because I'm an old school rep, but when I was a broker, people would speak to me in the grocery line. I probably had more short sale conversations where people wanted to discuss it while I was in the grocery line because they saw, and those kinds of sales triggers sound like this. I might need to sell my house. I just lost my job. I'm getting divorced. I have a family member had COVID and hasn't been able back to work. We just relocated, or we're going to need to relocate because we can't get work anymore. These are all the sales triggers where the client is reaching out, beginning the exact same conversation. So you're going to take them eventually right where you would have taken them all along. How far behind are you? Have you stopped missing payments? What is your hardship? Let's get with Lori and get a let sheet done. Let's get with Tommy and get a PR done. Let's get your listing agreement. Oh, you definitely are going to sell, and you're going to go on to South Carolina, or whatever the better situation for you is. Because the seller is in a stressed emotional state, you need to use a delicate sales approach and really let people save face. Okay, you need to let them know, even if you wouldn't in a million years have had that drug problem or whatever the situation that brought them to this situation. This is a real place where saving face is an important piece of this. And then I wanted to talk about some available resources for you. Many of your resources are looking at you right now. You've got me on your escrow, and we have nine branches out there all through Southern California, so we can get you and your clients comfortable wherever you are. Tommy Dutcher is also all of Southern California, specializing in Riverside. Did I say that correctly, Tommy? Specializing in Riverside County?
No. Well, I manage the Riverside County, but I do business across Southern California.
Tracy Hasse, our Mission Valley girl. Andrew for the law. Many people are looking at you here and can walk you through the situation, and you can gather together what you're going to need. I wanted to make sure you guys knew that on the CAR forms, when you go into a transaction and you see on the top left corner there, Tommy, if you push on where it says form libraries, right there. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just wanted to see that. That's what it looks like in your zip forms. And if you pull down, you can see there's a foreclosure prevention library. I've got it highlighted in blue. I've been getting a lot of people asking how to begin marketing these. And one of the agents that I spoke to, and a technique we used ourselves back in the day, was lots of agents are going to be cold calling them when they see the NODs and things come out. And Tommy, you may want to talk about farming NODs here a little bit in a minute. Yep. But I have found the most luck is to go put something on their porch. And that's one of the things I talked about was if you're not going to be able to reach them, get them some really good, safe information. And the foreclosure prevention library has lots of good samples for you there. Also on the California Association of Realtors website, if you just put in pre-foreclosure or foreclosure, there's a whole mini website in there full of tips and flyers and advertising of every sort. At the very bottom, I put in the link that'll take you straight to the short sale folder. In CAR, you will have to copy and paste it over. Tommy, one of the questions I've been getting, and I'm springing this on Tommy a little bit because he took his daughter to college.
Yep.
This last weekend, yes. So I didn't want to bother him. He looked like he was having a happy time. So, Tommy, what you want to talk about farming for a minute or two, or what a title company can do to help you on short sales?
Yeah, so your notice of defaults, your notice of sales are all public record. So those are things that would definitely show up in a farm search. However, by the time a notice of default happens, in most cases, you have hundreds in any given area of agents that are already approaching those individuals in those homes. So it's an extremely aggressively tough market to farm because we call it, low-hanging fruit, right? It's kind of where it starts. The easiest one to know that they're in a hardship, right? Where people don't realize that there are many other hardships, but they're harder to detect, right? i.e., maybe a death of a spouse or a divorce, et cetera. And there are different companies out there that you could get those types of leads from. But what I'm trying to get at is farming homes that are in notice of default are tough because by the time notice of default gets recorded, they've already been in hardship for quite some time, okay? The easiest, or I won't say easiest, the best way of farming those types of individuals is word of mouth. If that's your topic of conversation, everybody that you come in contact with day in and day out, just in general, is, hey, if you know anybody that, is in forbearance, if you know anybody that is affected by work, if you know all these things that could trigger somebody not being able to make their mortgage payment, you're trying to open the door to have that conversation, right? Because a lot of times by doing that, you can have the conversation with them, you can build the rapport with them before the bank has filed the notice of default,
Yes.
before the bank has filed notice of sale. And that is your best way of getting into this market, especially in this current state of market, right? Because right now, banks aren't able to issue a notice of default on anybody who has taken forbearance. So if you're having those conversations like, do you know anybody that has taken forbearance? And by the way, when you start talking to people that are in forbearance and you're giving them resources and things like that, ask them, who else do you know that I can help? Because if somebody's in forbearance, they probably know 2 or 3 other people that are in forbearance, okay? But right now, having those conversations to try and build a list of people that are in forbearance so that you can then give them resources before they need them is going to open the door. Because if you're the one that is letting them know, like, hey, there are funds available for you, hey, there are resources available for you, and you're putting that in front of them all the time, they may feel more likely to reach out to you when they need it, because they feel you're on top of it and you know what is available out there, et cetera. So we're in a very kind of unique situation. It's so much different than the last foreclosure market that we came out of. So I would suggest that maybe in your general farming, you're starting to throw things out there, maybe some verbiage that alerts that there are resources for anybody that has taken forbearance, things like that. And I would start putting that out there to start building a list of people asking you for questions. But if you do want to wait until they lift the forbearance memorandum and they start issuing notice of defaults, I can definitely help you with that, but I think you would be behind the 8 ball.
So like real estate, you're going to be having these conversations in unlikely places, cocktail parties, and I joked during the short sale market that I felt like a doctor. Everybody wanted me to look at their mortgage during the short sale market, like doctors say everybody wants them to look at their mole. I got where I wouldn't tell some people that I was in real estate at certain events, just because I would wind up giving an hour-long immediate lesson on how to do a short sale. Lori,
Yeah,
what?
but you could break the ice very quick when you ask somebody, like, if you're out and about and you're having conversations with somebody, always ask them what they do, right? Because usually just out of courtesy, they're going to ask you what you do. And if you say, I'm a real estate agent specializing in Southern California, or I'm a real estate agent and I am currently specializing with those homeowners that have been affected by this COVID pandemic and that are in forbearance, right?
Yep, that's why I wanted you guys to hear the sales triggers. They're offering you a nugget of embarrassment for them that's the thread you need to pull to get into what's next with them. Lori, do you have any? One of the things I wanted to ask you was during the recession, loan mods were all the rage for a while, but then we didn't see many of them at all, because I guess if they modded, we wouldn't see them on the escrow and real estate side. But I am hearing quite a bit of mod conversation going on that the banks do seem to be trying to modify some loans at this point to see if they can save the homeowner.
Yeah, I guess if the borrower was strong enough that would be an option. So just tagging on what Tommy said, people just need to know what their options are. And so the longer they wait, by the time you come to them with an NOD, there's just not a lot of options. So, if I see somebody or hear from somebody when they got their notice to accelerate, maybe we've got time and stuff. But I think if people just understand that they have options and you've got to get to them quick, even with this forbearance, the ones that I was helping folks with, of course, no charge, but it was as if it was a HAMP. These were Fannies. And so you went into the HAMP program and you had to make your payment on time for like 3 months, just like it was back in the 2008 and 10, or you were out. So who knows how this is going to play out? I really don't know. And I'm really hoping that the government steps in, because when they do, the banks react. But it would be great if they gave incentives to the borrowers for moving. Like some banks will and some won't. It's up to the investor. But if there's a push from the government to offer incentives, then there'll be less foreclosures and more shorts. So who knows what's going to happen? I'm just waiting to see.
One of my children is standing at my door, looking in my window, not realizing I'm at class, trying to wave me in, trying to get me to unlock the door. Tommy, let's move on to questions. And could you maybe get us rolling on questions while I unlock my front door? Excuse me. One of the benefits of working from home, everyone.
Absolutely. All right, so we will go ahead and open it up for questions. Let me check the chat as well. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I would say is if you have questions, we definitely have the individuals who can answer them. We have Lori coming from the negotiation side, and we have Andrew coming from the law side. So if you guys have specific questions or even what if questions, feel free to unmute yourself and go ahead and ask away. Don't everybody do it at once.
We're definitely going to see some of these for sure. It's just how big a market it's going to be, and one of the things I say over and over again in our classes is you don't have to remember every word. You just have to remember that Tommy and I and Andrew and Lori, we know. And if you just reach out and say, hey, what was that you said about, or can we go over that again? We're always welcome to do that for you. The classes are not only to educate, but to demonstrate that we can be trusted with your business, and that we would consider it an honor to help you get through your transactions and make us all commission and get a seller safely where he needs to go. Our work did feel it always feels very valuable. The number of divorces and child support liens and the types of things, deaths, first homes, all those kinds of things are so much a part of real estate, and so are short sales and bad days in real estate. So don't be afraid but remember, for that sales trigger, if somebody's telling you that they haven't been able to go back to work or that sort of thing, you're going to hear those kinds of questions where you can begin to demonstrate your knowledge.
especially
You want them
now.
coming to you. Oh, excuse me.
No, go ahead.
And you want them coming to the agents, not going to their bank, because I'll tell you, those banks, they even confuse me sometimes, and I have to back up and go figure out where they're coming from. But yeah, options. They need options. Yes.
Yeah, and especially now. I mean, current state of affairs with the market is there's probably not a whole lot that are in a situation for a short sale situation. However, if the market changes, it could change fairly rapidly. So coming from for an agent perspective is be prepared for the worst, right? Be prepared for the worst so that you're able to direct your clients and guide your clients in the right direction, and that they don't have to go somewhere else for that guidance.
Another thing is the constantly moving removal of the moratorium is another thing we all have to be watching. Obviously, the federal government is trying to do one thing, the states are trying to do another. I read something last week that San Diego wasn't going to honor the moratorium going further. But I also know they have to follow whatever rules the most strictest. So I'm sure it's going to default to the state. But this may trickle out a little at a time as various areas are able to escape the moratorium. And homeowners really do want to escape it. They want to they want to get straight with their mortgage. That's when I said they want to save face. It is. Nobody doesn't want to pay the bills. Nobody. The guy with the cart behind the grocery store wants to pay his bills. He whatever's happened that he can't, but everybody wants to pay the bills. So it's a very painful thing to be a part of without some sensitivity.
Yes.
Did you find that like when these forbearances started and when this COVID, all of it really started, the banks had no clue what to do. They literally would even say on phone calls, we don't really know what to do yet. So we'll have to wait and see how this all plays out and what they come up with, because they need to know what they're doing first. So
You won't be maybe as aware of this as we are, but the whole world's doing that on the AB 38 fire defensible space right now as well. But I remember when I was taking my very first short sale 101 class, the teacher said, many of the people you're going to be talking to don't even have their jobs yet. Like they didn't go from 10 asset managers to 20 because they don't know who they need.
yes,
Yeah.
it was very wild in the beginning, very wild.
Dorothy Cole has been able to join us. She is also a short sale negotiator. She had a client show up and wasn't able to join us at the beginning of the class. Dorothy, be sure and put your information in the chat. Laura, you want to get yours in there too before we turn off your flyer?
How do you upload a flyer? I wouldn't even know how to do that. Sorry.
Or email me after and we'll get it.
Yeah, I can do that. Yes, absolutely.
But at least put in your contact information and your,
Okay.
your email address. And then Dorothy, we're happy to have you. Dorothy and Lori were the two that had the most votes from our transaction coordinator groups for outstanding short sale negotiators. So that's why we had them both on today. I'm sorry Dorothy wasn't able to be a bigger part of it, but that's who that is down there. Dorothy, welcome. I'm sorry to,
Hi, Dorothy.
Well, for everybody watching, because those that are watching are not going to see the phone numbers and stuff on screen. So if you are in need of a short sale negotiator and you want contact to Lori and Dorothy, you can reach out to Mary Jane Morris or myself, Tommy Dutcher, and we can obviously get you their contact information as well.
Awesome.
all right, everybody.
As
All right.
always, thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us.
Take care.
Thank you.
MJ next week.
Nice to meet you, Lori and Dorothy.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me.
Next week, we are Sam, the leader, Samantha Mays, Samantha Man Hayes
Hayes.
is teaching things that are missing from your file. Details matter next week. What don't you have in your file? And I think that does it for us reporting.
All right, guys, thank you. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
Tommy and I